I didn't think anything could hurt more than seeing his name light up on my phone with that message. No explanation, no call, just a cold, two-sentence text from the man I thought I was going to marry. I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. It's not you. Not even my name. After 3 years together, after making wedding Pinterest boards and choosing baby names for fun, that was it. I was still staring at the screen when Julia walked in. She didn't even knock, just let herself in like always, holding a tub of my favorite ice cream and wearing that oversized hoodie she stole from me months ago. She took one look at me, saw my face, and said nothing. Just opened her arms, and I collapsed into them. She was the only one I could cry in front of like that. The only one who knew how deeply I loved him, how I planned our life in my head, how I thought I'd found my forever. Julia sat with me all night. We cried, laughed at stupid memes to distract me, even burned an old hoodie of his in a metal bowl on the balcony. She doesn't deserve this, she said to no one in particular, and I believed her. Because if there was one person in the world who was always in my corner, it was Julia, or so I thought. The days that followed were blurry. Sleep, eat, cry, repeat. He didn't reach out again. Not even once. I kept rereading his message like maybe I'd missed something. Some clue. Some crack in the words that would tell me why. But there was nothing. Julia kept checking on me, texting, calling, bringing food. She said things like, "You're better off," and "he never really saw you." I clung to those words, because if she believed I deserved more, maybe I did. 2 weeks later, I finally left the house. A friend was hosting a low-key birthday dinner. Julia said she'd meet me there. "You need to feel pretty again," she smiled. "He doesn't get to take your sparkle." I hugged her. God, I felt lucky to have her. That night, something shifted. Not loudly, not in a way I could explain. But when I got to the restaurant, she wasn't there. I texted her. No response. A few friends said she'd mentioned being out of town. I figured she forgot to tell me. No big deal. But something in my stomach felt weird. Like the silence wasn't accidental. Like she wasn't just busy. But I shook it off. Until a week later, I was scrolling on Instagram numb, detached when I saw a photo that made my heart stop. A soft focus picture of an engagement ring. A champagne glass. A cake with gold letters that read, "She said yes," and tagged right there, bold and unfiltered, at Julia. Lane at Ben Matthews. Ben. My Ben. No, her Ben now. Or maybe he was never really mine to begin with. I stared at the screen for so long, it went black. My fingers were frozen over the glass, like my body hadn't caught up to what my eyes were seeing. But there it was in full vivid color. My ex-fiancé, smiling, holding hands with the woman who held me while I cried over him. Julia, my best friend. The post was from her account, not a repost, not a tag she couldn't control. She wrote the caption. She chose the ring emoji, the champagne glass, the little sparkle effect. She made it public, and I guess that made it real. I didn't scream, didn't throw my phone. I just sat there, silent. Inside me, something cracked. Not like glass, not a clean break. More like old wood splitting from pressure it had held in too long. My heart was pounding, but everything around me felt muted. No sound, no breath, just betrayal echoing in my chest like a drum. I went back to the post, scrolled through the comments. She's glowing. Finally. You two were meant to be. Meant to be? When? Before or after she brought me tissues and told me I was too good for him? Before or after she helped me delete our vacation photos? Before or after she helped me burn his hoodie? I read the date on the post. It was backdated, posted as if it happened a week ago. The same weekend she told me she was visiting her aunt. The same weekend I cried on the floor, thinking no one else could hurt me more than he already had. Turns out, I was wrong. I didn't call her, didn't text, didn't show up at her door like some glitch. Because deep down, I wanted the silence to haunt her. I wanted her to feel what I felt when I saw that post, a stillness. The cold, the vacuum where trust used to live. She didn't message me either, not for days. Until she finally did. 3 words, no explanation. Just, "Can we talk?" No, we couldn't. Because what do you say to someone who held your hand while hiding a knife in the other? What conversation repairs the fact that she knew exactly what she was doing and did it anyway? But I didn't block her. Not yet. Because I wanted to know everything. And if I was going to burn this bridge, I wanted to watch the flames. She showed up at my door without warning. Just like she always did, like this was still that version of us. The version where she could knock twice, let herself in, and crawl into bed next to me with wine and bad gossip. But this time, I didn't unlock the door. I watched her through the peephole. She looked nervous. No makeup, hair in a loose braid, holding her phone in one hand and a small white envelope in the other. She knocked again. "Please," she said softly. "I just want to explain." Explain? What could possibly be said to make any of this make sense? That it was an accident? That she slipped and fell into my fiance's arms? I opened the door, not because she deserved it, but because I needed to see her face. She sat on the couch like a stranger, careful, stiff, like she knew she didn't belong there anymore. "I didn't plan it," she started. "I didn't speak, I swear. I never meant to fall for him. It just happened." I raised an eyebrow. That phrase, that pathetic little excuse people use when they don't want to admit they chose betrayal. "It started when you two were on that break last year," she continued. "We were talking a lot." He was confused. I don't know, lonely. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. because now she was trying to make it my fault, framing it like I had somehow opened the door by having a rough patch. He told me he loved you, she said quickly, like that made it better. He didn't plan to leave you, but then, things changed, and you were so heartbroken. I didn't know how to tell you, so she brought ice cream, held me while I cried, sat beside me at rock bottom, knowing she'd helped push me there. I looked at her, and all I said was, "You watched me grieve him while wearing my hoodie." She flinched. Silence. Then she held out the envelope. "It's a wedding invitation." I stared at it. She kept talking. "You don't have to come. I just didn't want you to find out through someone else." I wanted to be honest. Honest. That word made my stomach twist. I took the envelope, not because I planned to go, but because I knew then without a doubt that I was done playing the role of the girl who forgives. I was going to play a different role now, the one where I take back control, quietly, strategically, with a smile on my face, because I didn't want revenge. I wanted dignity, and soon, she'd see the difference. The envelope sat on my nightstand for 3 days. I didn't open it. Didn't need to. I knew exactly what it was: gold foil cream paper. Probably a Henderton "we'd be honored if you joined us" line meant to make betrayal look like celebration. But I wasn't angry anymore. Not in the screaming, plate smashing, mascara running kind of way. That part of me burned out the night I saw the Instagram post. What came after wasn't rage. It was strategy. And silence. Because if they thought I'd just disappear quietly, they didn't know me at all. On the 4th day, I opened the envelope. It was exactly what I expected. Their names in cursive. A vineyard wedding. Even a hashtag. I flipped the RSVP card over, and I wrote, in the smallest, cleanest handwriting I could manage, "Declined. But thank you for showing me everything I needed to see. No drama, no accusations, just truth." I sealed it back in the return envelope, added a wax stamp because why not, and mailed it the next morning. That was my closure, but it wasn't my ending, because I had one more thing to do. I'd been quiet long enough, but I wasn't going to expose them online. That's not my style. Instead, I sent one email to the venue, subject, "Change of billing contact because," surprised, the vineyard they'd chosen. My family's property. My uncle ran it. They had no idea. Apparently, Ben booked it under a coordinator without realizing the connection. It was a miracle of miscommunication and the universe's sense of humor. And no, I didn't cancel the wedding. I didn't even raise the price. I just added a clause, a quiet little line in the contract that required full prepayment, and waived refunds for sudden changes in guest capacity or vendor substitutions, because sometimes the best revenge is letting the event go on exactly as planned. While you watch from a distance, champagne in hand, knowing the toast they give will never taste quite right. Not when the ghost of your silence is still in the room. I didn't go to the wedding. Of course not. But I knew everything that happened. Small towns talk. Vineyard staff talk more. And apparently, she talked too much. From what I heard, Julia looked radiant, glowing, even a perfect bride. At least until halfway through the reception, when someone asked how she and Ben met. The music was soft. The wine was flowing. And for a second, she forgot to lie. She said, "It started when he was still with his ex, apparently." The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut glass. A few guests looked around. Some whispered. One cousin, mine, ironically quietly excused herself. Julia tried to backtrack, to spin it into a "we weren't really serious" timeline. But the damage was done. Because no matter how you dress it up, people remember how a love story starts. And if it begins with betrayal, it leaves a taste. I got a message that night. From an unknown number. Just one sentence: "You won." No name, but I knew who it was. And the truth is, I didn't win anything. This wasn't a game. I wasn't trying to get back at anyone. I just stopped playing their game. I stopped shrinking to make other people comfortable. I stopped staying silent to keep a peace that never existed in the first place. They thought they broke me, but all they did was free me. And I was finally beginning to see that. That same week, I got invited to speak at a women's leadership panel. Someone had found my old writing blog, said my voice was exactly what we need right now. They didn't know about the heartbreak. They didn't know about the betrayal. They just saw strength in the way I wrote about starting over. And for the first time, I said yes. Because maybe this wasn't just the end of something. Maybe it was the start of something mine. Some people think closure comes with an apology, a final conversation, a moment of recognition where the person who hurt you suddenly sees what they did, says all the right things, and gives you peace. But that's not real life. Real life is quieter, messier, and sometimes, the apology never comes, but the clarity does. And that's more powerful than any sorry could ever be. Julia and I never spoke again. Not really. She sent a message once after the wedding, something vague. Like, "I hope you're doing okay." I didn't respond, because I was more than okay. I had moved out of our shared friend circles, started hosting my own Sunday brunches, surrounded by women who actually support each other. I wrote more, traveled more, said yes to things that scared me, like speaking on that panel, which led to a podcast guest spot, which led to a publishing opportunity. And through it all, I stayed silent about them. No tell-all posts, no revenge rants. Because some stories don't need to be shouted. They need to be outlived. I still keep that wedding invitation, not as a wound, but as a reminder of how far I've come from the girl who cried on the floor over a man who didn't even call to explain, of how deeply I trusted someone who looked me in the eye while lying. and of how much stronger I became the moment I walked away from both of them. That chapter? It's closed. And I didn't slam the door. I just walked out with my dignity intact. And I never looked back. I didn't get revenge. I got distance. And sometimes that's louder